Welcome to another episode of Same Page. I'm Sarah Simajist.
And I'm Lenard and Sarah.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that we've wanted to dive into for a while now, but we didn't really know what to really say. The topic is cheating. And I think it's a topic that's very important to discuss because not everyone has the same definition of what infidelity looks like in a relationship. What I might think is cheating, Lennon might think is okay, and vice versa. So it's really important to know where to draw the line and what each person's definition is so that you're very clear on what is okay to do in the relationship and what is not okay to do. And I don't just mean physically, I just mean even conversations and things like that. So what is the first thing that we want to dive into?
Let's just define what cheating is for each other.
Okay, so what is cheating for you?
So for me, cheating boils down to straight blank sexual acts, right?
Okay.
So anytime you're intimate with somebody else, whether it's kissing or anything that's more significant, and also there's also a kind of like an emotional connection as well. So if you're sharing all your dreams, your secrets, your fears with somebody else other than your partner, that is also cheating. So basically where I kind of draw the line is that anything that you wouldn't do in front of your partner could be construed as cheating.
Okay, so anything that you wouldn't do with somebody else. So obviously with the opposite sex, because we're attracted to the opposite sex. Okay. So if I shared my ultimate dreams, like, everything that I want to accomplish, financial freedom and traveling the world and all of that, having children and all that, do you feel that that's cheating?
Well, especially if you haven't shared that with me. So if you share that with somebody else and you don't feel the need to share it with me, or for whatever reason there's that barrier for you why you haven't shared it with me, then there's a little disconnect there. There's an issue there.
So for you, infidelity is really sharing something with someone else that you're not willing to share with your partner. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see how that may be hurtful.
Yeah.
So it's not just the physical acts, it's also the emotional connection with
well.
somebody else. Yeah.
So what's the definition for you?
I agree with you where I think that if you were having these very intimate conversations with another female, then I'm not sure I would say that's infidelity or cheating, but that would upset me. So, not that it's like a clear, that wouldn't be grounds for me to leave you, for example.
Okay.
However, sexual acts for sure, and I would for sure want to know why that has happened because I think we have a relationship, at least now, where we're very open with each other. If we're missing anything in our lives, that we share that, right? And I would want to know, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
How come? What led to that? Is it a single action that sort of spurred of a moment, which I sort of don't believe in. I don't know.
I don't believe in that either.
But or is it something that has been ongoing for a while and then
that's been building for some time?
Yes, exactly. One thing led to another. So my definition of infidelity and for grounds to leave is more of the physical act, but definitely I would be very hurt and I would felt misled, you could say, or if you were having more of an emotional relationship with another person.
Well, since you brought it up, like my definition did not include as far as whether or not I would leave or not. You went there right away.
Yeah, because I know where I draw the line.
Yeah. So basically, so I guess my question to you would be, if I cheated, would you stay?
right now in this moment, I want to say no, I
Mm-hmm.
would not. However, it's not impossible for me to change that thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is because I feel like at this point of a relationship, we've gone through a lot together, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through, infertility. We've gone through, working on our goals and dreams, me quitting my job, and you've supported me and all that, and vice versa. But as I don't know if this sounds bad, but I feel like it's still not enough to hold me back, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you did that to me, I'd be like, oh my goodness, we went through this together. And to you, that means nothing. And I mean, I'm not saying maybe it does mean something to you.
Mm-hmm.
However, for me, it's like, well, if you're able to do this now, what are you able to do later?
Yeah.
So at this point of a relationship, I want to say yes because I'm still I'm young. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I could not necessarily find another partner, but I can start my life over in another way that I may be more beneficial to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without having somebody that I'm constantly doubting.
Yeah.
But 20 years down the line, maybe we would have gone through so much more and that we're so attached that maybe my answer would change. I'm not sure, to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to say that yes, I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
But what you say versus what you do is very different depending on when you're actually in the situation.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, it depends as well. Short answer, most likely I would go. I would definitely leave.
Mm-hmm.
But then, depending on what we've built, depending on how big our family has grown, um, and also depending on also the context
Mm-hmm.
of what caused you to step out in a relationship. So for example, like I know for me, if I was the cause of you stepping out, saying that either I was distant, I was less affectionate, I was not necessarily like I'm not the abusive type, but say for whatever, say I was abusive, say that I was doing things to make this relationship toxic and
Mm-hmm.
kind of push you away, and then you went to and then that resulted in you stepping out on me, then maybe with some self-reflection I'm like, oh, you know what, it's like as much as I want to blame you because at the end of the day you ultimately did that act,
Mm-hmm.
but I was to blame in some shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I know for me, if you were deliberate as far as to whom you cheated with,
Mm-hmm.
like say if it was someone in my close circle, then that would hurt a lot more than if it was just some random.
Okay. So there's several layers. It doesn't just
Exactly.
matter what I did, but who I did it with for
Absolutely.
you. Okay.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
And then as a man too, depending where I am in my life as far as my personal growth, ego gets like definitely plays a role in it as well.
Okay. Tell the truth, like you touched on something very important. You said that you would take a look at whether you were the cause of the infidelity. And I actually believe that nobody else can be the cause of infidelity but you.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense that you make that choice, whether that your partner, whether I, was lacking something, whether it's sexual, emotional, whatever it may be, even if I voiced it to you, I have other options than cheating. I have
Mm-hmm.
the option of leaving. I have the option, of getting divorced. And those are, your vows are very sacred. At least for me, they're
Mm-hmm.
very sacred. So you don't have to cheat, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a choice. I think that if you're not faithful to your husband and your wife, that's on you,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what's going on. Yes, they can be abusive. Yes, they can have cheated on you. Yes, maybe you may feel that they're withdrawn, but I feel like there's other ways for you to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
and one is just to leave rather than cheating. So I feel like there's no grounds on which cheating is okay. You know, you can terminate the relationship and then go do what you want to do. But I don't know. That's just the way I feel. I just feel like, well, you know, you should respect your vows and separate first or divorce or whatever that looks like, rather than saying, well, I'm lacking this, so I'm gonna get it out somewhere else, but I'm still gonna stay in a relationship. And I understand that sometimes there's a lot at stake. You know,
Absolutely.
you have kids, so you don't want to leave, or you've built something great together and you don't want to leave that relationship, but there's a part of you that's just suffering, you know, whether it's sexually or emotionally. You just need that, but you also want to stay. But I think at that point you have a very hard choice to make, and it's not always clear cut. And I understand that my way of looking at it may not be everyone's way of looking at it. However, in the moment that I'm in right now, I just feel like, hey, what if it's that important to you to find that piece of your relationship elsewhere, then leave, right, before you cheat. That's just
one thing that you brought up that I want to kind of touch up on is the fact that since we're married, we made vows.
Right.
We took vows in front of each other, in front of our families and friends. And if you really honor those vows, you will think twice, 3 times, 4 times before you actually commit those acts, right? And I think that people tend to forget where they started from, and the choice that they made to enter this relationship, to enter this marriage. So before stepping out on your relationship, like, you need to consider all those things. And you're right. At the end of the day, it's a choice, and you can choose other things for whatever is lacking in your relationship. That shouldn't be a reason for you to step out on your relationship.
Right. Okay. Do you feel that this is maybe another branch of infidelity? But what about financial infidelity? Is that cheating?
I believe so. I believe, because basically you should be able to be to say everything to your partner and be as transparent as possible.
And
however hurtful it may be at the time, because some topics are definitely a little more sensitive than others. But yes. And
I'm not sure if you have thought about this, but what would you consider financial infidelity?
I think for me, the financial infidelity would be spending like a large sum of money that's kind of like that's already been designated as kind of collectively ours towards a big purchase without telling the other person.
Okay. For me, it would just be hiding anything about your finances, right?
Okay.
So it doesn't even matter what, you know, whether the purchase is small or large or whatnot. But if you feel like you have to hide certain parts of your finances from your partner, I understand people have different financial relationships, but at least for us, because we're so open about our finances, that would be hurtful. And that I would start questioning your faith, your faithfulness to me, right? Because I would say, well, why are you keeping, even if it was like $100 a month, right? Unless, you know, you're like, oh, you know, I was trying to save to buy your new car. Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love it. But you know what I mean? Even if it's like for an investment or for whatever else, a pension, even if it was a smart move, I feel like what would be the reason you would be hiding that from me, right? Unless you had a really good reason, and I can't think of one right now, then I would start to question your fidelity to me. Yeah. Can I ask you a very hard question?
That's good.
Okay. Have you ever cheated, or have you ever thought of cheating on me?
I've never cheated on you, and the thought, there's definitely been thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what And because your thoughts may be different from mine, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So were they more sexual, or were they more emotional, or financial? I don't know. I
They were definitely financial. No. Maybe more sexual. Um, and it's just a thought,
don't know.
right? And like I don't know about you. Obviously, I'll ask you the question afterwards, because I know, at least for me, when we had those tough times at the beginning, and then we're going through that transition period, and then we had a couple of, where we were arguing definitely a lot more. There was a lot more instances where there was like frustrations for whatever reason, right? So then after you can't take a step back, you almost second guess your decision. Then you obviously you try to go back to, okay, like I know I love this person. I know the reason why I married this person. So why aren't we getting along right now? And then for whatever reason, whenever you're having those arguments, then at least for me, it was very easy for me to kind of detach myself, and to kind of like kind of withdraw myself from the relationship. And then when you're in that state, then your mind just starts to wander, so and for me, it's mostly maybe thinking of certain like past relationships, mostly like it would never be I'll never be in a position to try and start something new. But it's just a thought. And like I've definitely been tempted in the past. Definitely a lot less now, because like I think we're in a really good place.
Yeah, I think so.
And you, yeah. How about you? Have you ever been tempted?
Tempted, no. I mean, we talked about different types
Yes.
of cheating. I've never cheated on you. I haven't been tempted in the sense that like somebody that I know, I want to, have a relationship with them, or whether it's a sexual act or whatnot. But I've definitely, there has been times when you've been really withdrawn, and I couldn't figure why, and I felt like asking you was like making you withdraw even more, was like bothering you or whatnot, and you just needed to be in your bubble, and I just needed that emotional connection. So I would like daydream about like going for sushi with somebody else. Like it sounds really it sounds very small in a sense, but just like going to dinner, or like going on a date with someone and laughing and just like keeping it very light. Never like on a sexual basis, but definitely having, when I was missing that connection with you, I just like craved it, so I was just like, oh man, I wish I had somebody to date right now. But that's like the extent of my like fantasies, or outside of the marriage, just because I'm very for me, like relationships are very emotional, and if I don't have that, I crave it. It's just, that's what I need, and yeah, that's that.
Yeah, and like just to go back also, on my answer, like as much, like I think tempted could be seen like there's different layers to it. So for me, like I was never tempted in the sense of like being like in a situation. For me, it was always just a thought.
Right. Okay.
Because there is that temptation where something's dangling in front of your like in front of your face.
You're in a situation.
And all this stuff. So like I just want to clarify that. So there was never that type of temptation, but just the thought of like, okay, like okay, like how would it be with somebody else? You know what I mean? And just that.
And so, two questions for you. What stopped you from pursuing those thoughts? And how do you keep yourself from putting yourselves in a position of cheating? Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
The reason I ask this is because I hear a lot of times where a person will say, oh man, it was just the perfect situation. Or, I was just there and the other person was there and there was like a spark and whatnot. And I actually hear them more often than I should, I think. So I'm just wondering, for you, how, because you said you've never been like in the actual
Yeah.
situation tempted,
Hmm.
and how do you keep yourself from being in those positions?
Well, I think it comes down from me being self-aware, because if I was in that situation, as much as I want to say that, oh, I'd be able to say no, like I don't know,
Right.
right? Depending on where my mindset was at the time. So I just prefer not to put myself even close to that situation.
Right. Okay.
So
So you avoid the environment that could lead to.
altogether.
Okay.
Altogether. Now mind you, it's not like I was ever the type to go out like recently, like right now, like as far as going out, like no. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like say
Like going outside, or
no, I mean going out to a club. Obviously, in this climate, nobody's going out, nobody's clubbing anywhere.
Mhm.
But say it was prior to COVID. Like I was never the type to go out to clubs, even with the fellas or whatnot. I guess basically once I got married, even before that, like it was just kind of like, you just get a little, you get a little older. You kind of like, that's kind of like more childish things, and you kind of just step away from that scene. So I know for me, like that would be a place, or there's an environment
where you tempted.
where the temptations might be there.
Okay.
And then whether it's having conversations with people either from my past or people, whether it's people that I work with, but I believe that you always know when you're stepping that line.
You're crossing
that line.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or if you're flirting with it, if you're stepping on, if you're stepping
you
on,
feel
flirting with
uncomfortable.
it, you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And like I know for me, like those antennas go up right away, and I'm like, you know what? I just need to pull back, or just refrain from even getting close to that situation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've been in situations where somebody has asked me for my phone number,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't in a good place. And for me, just even chatting, like texting, Facebook or whatnot, just chatting on Facebook Messenger would have given me what I wanted, that emotional attachment. And I was just like you, at that point, you ask yourself, wait a minute, is that cheating? If I give out my number, if I start texting that person, if I talk to them on Facebook or social media or whatnot, and then just the discomfort that the whole situation brings, like you get your answer, right?
Exactly.
So I think that sometimes we play it off as, well, I was just talking, right? But I think deep down, the person knows. You know it's not something that's right. And especially if your partner was there with you and that person asked you for your number, if you weren't able to if you wouldn't give your number right then and there, then you shouldn't be able to do it. You should do it when you're alone.
Exactly.
So I think that in itself is a good way to decide, well, if Lennon was next to me, would I give that person the number? And if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, because like I know, like I've been in like situations like very few and far between. Like I don't know how often guys flirt with you.
Not very often.
Yeah, women don't. I wouldn't say flirt with me like heavy either.
That's a lie. People flirt with Leonard all the time. He just doesn't know it.
Okay, maybe I'm oblivious, but on those looks or the times I do catch it, like I'm able to to pump the brakes, or just to get out of that situation,
right,
as it occurs.
Okay. Right. That's actually a topic that I think we could go on and on about.
Absolutely.
And I think each couple, each individual has a different definition and a different reason why they would do certain things. So we'll stop it here for today.
Okay.
But I definitely want to dive into this topic a little bit more at another point, maybe with another couple.
I was just gonna say that, like getting the perspective from another couple would be very insightful.
Thanks for watching this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, let us know what you think. What is infidelity to you, and at which point would you leave, and what you thought about this conversation.
Till next time, guys.
Don't forget to speak your truth.